So I think that we're pushing live. I'm just checking again.
Okay, great.
Down to the side all the time, but I've got my two screens, making sure I'm muted on this one so we don't get horrible feedback. And I think I don't see us live yet, but my one computer says that we are. So hi, everyone. If you can see us, give us a thumbs up and let us know that we're here for you and that you can see us. Oh, I see us. I'm going to give us a thumbs up. We have one thumbs up. It's from me.
And I've got a thumbs up here on the screen. So
fantastic. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Master Your Mind. I'm Mims and this is Coach Kendra. And today we're talking about how to go through a time that some people may consider tough or low or blue or whatever, but still find purpose and have passion with it and understand that it's not the end of the world, that there can be positive fruit from it. Yes.
Yes. I think too, a lot of people think that suffering, I mean, we all have suffered in our lives, every single one of us at some point in some way or another. There's no honor in suffering. You can, despite your suffering, find some happiness. There's work, it's work. And we'll go over that in just a second on how to do that. But let me read you my quote this morning that kind of got some conversations started. And basically it's saying, we all suffer at times in our lives. This is part of being human. If you're suffering right now, please don't wait until your suffering is gone before allowing yourself to be happy. Happiness is a choice. And basically what I mean by that is, if I'll take myself as an example. At 5, when my dad drowned with his 2 friends, it was a complete suffering and loss. If I had waited until my suffering was done and not try to find some happiness despite that suffering, I would still be happening. Like I would have found no happiness or purpose in my life if I was waiting for the suffering to actually stop. Suffering, you can be happy, you can find purpose, you can find passion in your life despite the suffering that you have. And it could be a physical limitation, maybe where you live, or maybe another example I used for somebody this morning is, what if you're in jail for life? What if you're put in jail for life? Are you going to choose to suffer because you think you need to suffer your whole entire life because you're in jail? Or are you going to try to find some bits of happiness and purpose despite the suffering that you may be going through?
Yeah, that's a great example. And there are some really beautiful examples of how people have used that particular time, imprisonment, to create beautiful things from them. What came to me, there's 2 things that came to me when you were speaking, in addition to just the energy that I got from you talking about the passing of your father at such a young age, how confusing that is. You're 5 years old and your dad goes fishing and never comes home. Just what a difficult trauma to get through, because you don't have all of the cognitive reasoning abilities at that point. What came up for me, 2 things. One was the loss of my mother, the passing of my mother 10.5 years ago. We were very close. It was very difficult. And she passed away, and she was about a 2.5-hour drive from me. So I needed to drive home, take care of some business, and then go back for funeral arrangements. And the day that I was home, the next day, I went for a run. I was training for a marathon at the time, and I went for a run on this beautiful green line path system that was right next to my house. And it was a nice fall day, reasonable temperature, getting on my jog, and there was no wind or anything, but all of a sudden leaves started swirling around me. And I was filled with this presence of her love.
Yeah.
And even though as I was running, I had tears falling, just like, I was angry that she was gone. I missed her. I was a little angry with her because she kind of gave up. It was her choice to give up in her fight with cancer. But, there was a whole lot going on in here. And then, I'm running on this windless fall day, and all of a sudden it was just a tornado of leaves, beautiful fall leaves just came up from nowhere and just surrounded me. And I was just filled with this happiness, like all the memories from her just flooded back in, the positive ones. And it was like she was there with the universe dancing with me in a special way to show me, yes, this hurts, but as you run through this hurt, which is
Yeah.
what I was doing as I was training for the marathon, because I knew when I took this on that I was, in witnessing the transition of my mother, and that was difficult. And everybody note the language that I'm using there, because 10 years ago, I would say losing my mother, but we know that that's not entirely accurate. So please do note the language that Coach Kendra and I use. It's very deliberate. And sometimes if I slip and say lose, I'll come back and, and correct that. But that it was a green light to feel joy, even though there was this crap I was going through that didn't feel so good.
Yeah. Now, somebody made a comment in Creative Circle, and I really appreciate the conversation that I had, because you learn, I mean, conversations are great, whether or not somebody doesn't understand what you're saying or has a question. And so I just really love this kind of conversation. But anyway, the person was confused because the way that they were looking at it was, well, we need to still feel the feelings. If you don't feel the feelings and you just go around and try to be, faking happy. And that's not what I'm talking about.
That's not what I was doing either. I mean, you need to feel the feelings, but we are complex beings and we can feel more than one feeling at a time. It's the essence. If you've ever heard the term bittersweet, it's, when you do think of someone who you loved who passed. We have a client whose father passed in the last year or so. And when she thinks of him, and there's this one particular chair in her home,
Yeah.
in which he would always sit, you know who I'm talking about.
Yes, I do.
And it's very bittersweet for her. It's bitter in that he doesn't sit in the chair because his physical time has passed, but it's sweet because she has all those memories, and we're able to feel that. And we're not saying shove it down. And what we're saying is, and if you're taking notes or type it into the comments or the chat, whatever, what we're saying is don't go through something, grow through something. It's a difference in two little letters. So that's what we want you to write down. Don't go through something, grow through something.
A really good example of this, a person that's in our creator circle at this moment in time. And if you haven't looked her up, you need to look her up, because she is a perfect example of what we're talking about. It's Agi, AGI. She's a creator circle member. She has cancer. She's from the UK. If she stayed in the UK, she has no hope of even getting rid of her cancer. So she's in Mexico right now, going through some different therapy that was only available to her in Mexico. And she is suffering pain, all kinds of things going on, obviously. But in the midst of that, whenever I see a post of hers, I see her sufferings. She shows that, but I also see glimpses of joy and happiness in some moments that she has. And basically what I'm saying with my post is that we do have a choice.
Yes.
There's no I mean, we all suffer and we all grow, hopefully through the suffering, but there's no reason why we have to take on the suffering and let it change our entire lives for the rest of our lives. That's basically what we're saying. You do have a choice. You have a choice. Mindset. It's a mindset in a lot of ways. It doesn't mean that you don't feel the feelings and go through if you're going through grief process, it's a process, but you find glimpses of purpose and passion and happiness, gratitude for what you do have. She is a perfect example.
Great example. Yeah. And I mean, you can find, just think of it this way. I mean, the company that Kendra and I coached through, GILD, I created, and it has ended up growing legs and some arms since first creation. But yeah, what really, really got it off the ground was the fact that I had to have spinal surgery, and I was out of commission for 6 to 10 weeks. And I'm not a person who sits still well. unless it's an intentional sitting still. I'm not a person who forcibly sits still well.
Yeah.
And, tell me that I can't move. And then all of a sudden, everything itches, like, gotta move. But I was sitting there, and I had been coaching. I had been on this growth journey for a long time. And it was that time period that really gave me the ability for focused attention to build what would have otherwise taken me many more years to build. So, was it great that I had to have spinal surgery? No. Are there side effects to it now? Yes, I'm limited because part of my spine is covered with titanium plates and screws and things like that. So that my mobility is limited. I can't do all the things that physically that I used to be able to do. I have to be careful, some discomfort, things like that. There's side effects, but it's like that symbol, the yin yang. With good, there is bad. With bad, there is good, because there's nothing that is absent of any equalizing energy. That's really the essence of that symbol. And so, did I have to go through pain? Absolutely. Did I go through it? No. Going through it would have been me sitting there and complaining about how I can't walk and I can't exercise, and, this and that, and this hurts, and that, I'm going to have a scar, and I'm slightly vain, so don't really like having scars. And, growing through it would be, all right, I don't really want to have to be sitting here, but I'm so happy and grateful that I have medical care to take care of this situation, that I'm going to be recovered, that life's going to look different, but it's going to be okay. And I have this time.
Yeah.
That time was phenomenal, and it's made possible this. I don't know that I would be right here, right now with you, with all of you, with Master Shri Akashana, with, without it.
Mm-hmm.
So now I can rejoice in that, and we can go back and do that. The other thing that I thought of when you were speaking earlier was just yesterday, my daughter and I were going to go do some outside activities, and it ended up being a lot windier and cooler than we thought. And so we just kind of looked at each other and we were like, let's go shopping instead. So we diverted.
That's more fun. Come on.
Nature. Let's just go on, window shopping. And we ended up going into this discount store, and I love greeting cards.
I do too.
And so I found an old greeting card that was marked down. It was a 2020 greeting card. It was pretty funny. And it had a TV on it. And it said if 2020 was a TV show, it would be canceled. And it's marked down because clearly it's out of date. The card is. I thought, no, I got it. I got it to write a note to our other daughter to make a point. In 2020, when the world changed in ways that we would have never guessed it would or could, especially on a global level.
Mm-hmm.
How many people did you experience, you personally, Kendra, how many people on a daily basis did you experience saying, I'm so happy and grateful for this pandemic. Everybody's been asking for a break. We've all said that we're exhausted and we need a slowdown. We wish that we could work from home sometimes. How many people were like, yay, this is exactly what I asked for?
Two, me and David and I.
Me a little, yeah. And
yeah.
My point to our other daughter, Claire, who's always just like speeding through everything and not looking for the gifts, and who has had her share of trauma in her life.
Right.
She's our adopted child, adopted out of a history of neglect and abuse. And I've talked about her before, so I'm just kind of qualifying that in case this is the first time somebody's heard of that child of ours. But she doesn't have the programming at this point. She's getting it, but she doesn't have the programming to stop and look for that gift. And so I bought the card and I explained what the front of the card means, because she was only 8 and 9 during that. And then I said, it's our choice. We can either take a setback, a perceived setback or a difficulty or a challenge, and see the setback, the difficulty, and the challenge, or we can look for the opportunity. Can we grow? Can we change? Or will we just sit there and wait for someone else to do the work?
And complain.
And complain. And I thought, when I saw your quote, that quote this morning that you read, I thought, I could see how someone could find it confusing. Well, how can you enjoy while you still have this? And so for a moment I was like, huh, and I actually read it twice. So when you said, you know, let's talk about this, I was like, okay, great. Because even it took me a moment to really digest your true intention for that. I think that if you look at it from a standpoint of the yin yang, if you look for the light in the darkness, you'll find it. And in looking for that light, you elevate yourself. So whether it's joblessness, loss of a loved one, whatever, illness, even terminal illness, even last ditch effort going to a foreign country to save my life, terminal illness. Yeah. If you're looking for the light, you will bring the light, and then you'll be the light. And isn't that the very essence of life?
Yeah, that's 100% true. And, you know, talking about COVID and 2020 and all of that, David and I have had this conversation many, many times. And what we've come to the conclusion of is, honestly, for us, thank God we had COVID in this way, because we had I've had the time to work on my programs to help other people, where I don't think I wouldn't have had the time to do that. I've had the time to be able to be at home and work on my computer and do the work that's necessary to build our, you know, our programs and our company. And I'm so grateful for that. And there have been many times that I've thought, geez, maybe I should be doing something else, or maybe, you know, this, but no, this is where we were meant to be at this time. And we will sort of take advantage of the time that we're home and doing this. So that was a really great example, because so many people are going through that. And I've seen the people that are looking at the light, and I've seen the people that are choosing to look at the darkness in this whole situation. You know, and it really does make a difference. Now, there is work involved, and I'm going to go over a couple of things that both Jane and I do to cultivate, because we don't wake up and all of a sudden just find purpose and passion in our lives. It's a journey. There's a process involved, and part of that process for me personally has been having or finding or making a great morning routine every single morning, which includes meditation,
yep,
physical something or other, or yoga, working out or something.
I love that you said physical something or other.
And you know,
because you don't have to follow the template.
No, and here's the thing, you know, everybody's morning routine is going to be different. We're all different.
While you're talking about this, I'm gonna find the link, and if you're watching this on replay, then just check the video description or something, but I'm gonna put the link in our Facebook Live for folks to download our free guide.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Morning routine that works for you, because don't use my morning routine or Kendra's morning routine. You need your own, but we'll guide you through how to make that.
Yeah, this is great. This will be perfect. And it's really the foundation of your day and your life. And what this does is it helps us stay present. It helps us be mindful. It helps us with self-compassion. It helps us be able to think about what the next step for ourselves are. It helps us elevate our energy. You know, it's amazing. It's a journey that we travel through. It's taken me some time to really cultivate a really good morning routine. And sometimes it can change depending on, you know, so it can change, but it's really essential, in my opinion, of being able to find passion and purpose in your life despite suffering. You know, it really has made the difference for me. So, and I see it in my clients. Usually the first question I'll ask if somebody comes to me and they're in distress and they need help, I ask them, do you have a morning routine? And 9 times out of 10, the people that are in distress and feel like they have not found purpose and passion, and they're still suffering and can't find any happiness in their lives, 9 times out of 10, they do not and have not cultivated a great morning routine to help them with mindfulness, self-compassion, all those things that elevate our energies.
Yeah, just think about building a house. You have to build a strong foundation before you can put the plumbing in and the electric lines and the walls and all of that to hold it up. So if you're not paying attention to your mindset, your physical stamina and all this first thing in the morning, you're building your house just on plain ground and it's just going to fall down.
Yeah, it really makes a difference, and it makes a difference when you come up against some suffering, whatever it may be, and you are trying to find some happiness, passion, and purpose in your life. It doesn't mean that we don't feel those things that are going on, but what it means is there's always something in our lives that we can be grateful for, that we can focus on. Even with you, when your mom passed away and you went for a run, and look at how that run, just that made you feel, because your mom was obviously with you. She was kicking up the leaves.
All that her passing did was remove the geographic limitations. She's always here now. She doesn't have to wait for me to pick up the phone. She can just poke me anytime, and there's a conversation. I mean, beautiful things are always around you. You just have to notice them. Like I just noticed the name of one of our darling dear friends and sisters, Delisa.
Oh my goodness. I miss everybody so much. I wish we could all get together. I really do miss. David and I went out on Saturday to get something to eat. We actually went out to a public place, and because the state of Maine has loosened up a little bit of its restrictions, and so we were able to go out, and it was just so great being with other people. We didn't know any of the people that were sitting around us, but
it doesn't matter. They're just other people.
It didn't matter. It's like people.
I know. It's good to feel normal. So we're just going to have to find our new normal, like I did after my surgery, or like we have to do after any big thing happens.
Yeah.
One thing that you said about pandemic times, you wanted to take advantage. So can we unpack that statement?
Yeah, absolutely.
So just looking at those two words alone, take advantage, our connotation, at least mine, is kind of more of a negative vibration if I just sit in that, because to be taken advantage of is bad. Taking advantage may feel as though you're getting away with something, but let's shift it. If you're playing a game with someone or putting a puzzle together, aren't you going to take advantage of having noticed the edge piece that you need?
Mm-hmm.
So if we can just soften, not your words are fine, but most people's connotation is, oh, well, taking advantage of is a lower vibration. No. So if that is how that phrase makes you feel, instead of take advantage, let's shift that to, we recognize the opportunity. Ooh.
Right.
All of a sudden that feels lighter. We recognize the opportunity of all the time and freedom that we had. I'm taking advantage of all the opportunity, the time and freedom. It's the same thing, but if take advantage has more of a negative weight to it in your mind, then shift it.
That's a great way. That is fantastic, because that's exactly what I meant when I said it. It feels better when you say it that way. One of the things that has always stuck in my mind that Master Shri Akarshana taught us was that in any time that there's things going on that maybe feel negative, there's always opportunity to find something good in that event, or during that time, or it's an opportunity. There's opportunity everywhere. You just have to look for it. You have to be open-minded. You have to, as we say, I don't even see a box anymore. People say, oh, outside of the box, there's no box.
And I was recently vacationing with some friends who I've never gone and stayed with. And you learn a lot about somebody when you're with them continually for a day, 2, 3, in our case, 9 in a row. And I recognized some negative money mindset, because I said, this is my plan. And this person was like, oh, well, that's not possible for us. very positive, funny, sweet person. Like I love her. But I turned to her and I said, why do you say that? Oh, well, this, and this. She pointed out some present reality, realistic limitations. And I said, so what's different for me? And she's like, well, you think you can do it. And I said, I know.
I love that.
I know, which is why, I have the same limitations that you do, but I'm not focusing on those. I'm focusing on the fact that limitations are only boundaries to what my current production will afford. And it tells me where I have to push past in order to get over here where I want. So I absolutely believe that it's impossible for you. And she just kind of looked at me like, hey, you're the positivity princess. Like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm just agreeing with you. Yeah. I'm just agreeing, if that's what you think, you are absolutely right. So, we'll just invite you to our beach house when it happens, and she's like, I said, but if you change your mind and you know that it can happen for you as well, then it can. But no, right now you're absolutely right. If you think you can't, you're right. If you think you can, you're right. And it's just the difference between how do you approach it with your mindset, and most people approach it with the mindset that she was expressing.
Right.
How can you shift? And it's every day, bit by bit, baby steps.
Yeah. And what's interesting is now that I've worked on that over a period of time, that my journey, not just with money, but just with manifesting stuff like that, I hear it all the time when other people speak.
I know.
I hear it.
Sometimes when it does slip past, sometimes when my past programming slips out, I'm like, oh!
Yeah. I mean, I've never noticed it until this year, really, in some people family members that I'm with a lot. And it comes out like, it's amazing how and I had done it in the past and probably still slip and do it now, but I've changed a lot in that way. I've worked through this, but I can pick it up just like this now. It's really, really interesting to me because I perk up and I'm like, my gosh, I can't believe that person's saying this about themselves, but yeah, they probably have been saying it all along. I just didn't notice it.
Yeah.
And what's really neat is it works, in terms of, like, I'll give you an example. David and I are going to be traveling the US. Here that's what we're going to do. We're in the planning stages. We don't have a camper thing. We don't have a truck yet. But it's happening.
Those aren't limitations though. Those are just plans.
Right. And so there's to me, there's no limitations. There's none, absolutely none. There's whatever if we want to do this, we can do it. And so we're making it happen. Whereas a few years ago, I thought of doing this and thought, no way. And how would I ever be able to do that? I don't think that way anymore. And it's great. It's really, really, it's a lot of fun. It's, I don't know, it's hard to describe. It's exhilarating, fun, scary, fun.
Yes. Fun.
At the same time, it's the thing is it's possible if you get rid of those limitations of your mind, those things that we say about ourselves. And it's pretty interesting. I think it's really, really, I don't know, interesting is the only word I can think of right now, because it's almost like you're in a dream, sort of like, when you figure out that you can create.
It's like, it's very, people who hear you say it and don't quite get it, it can either give you two things. You can go to the negative and be like, that might work for her, but whatever, she somehow she got, a bit of luck. Or it can create curiosity inside you, which we know is the gateway to everything.
Yeah.
Using that curiosity. There's one other thing that I had thought of. What was it? Oh, you mentioned morning routine. We put the guide in the comments. The number one statement that people will make to me if I suggest a morning routine, just reaction, just right off the bat is, oh, I mean, I can barely get out of bed in the morning. And I'm like, great. Okay. So what do you do right before bed? And so then I just like back up to the night before. So if that was part of your thought was morning routine, I have so much in the morning, I have to get up and I'm always tired, I'm not rested, and the alarm wakes me up, and then I do this and I do this and I do this, and kids or spouse or job or commute or whatever, throw it on me. I mean, like seriously, type in all of your excuses. Please, let's have that conversation, because, excuses are just perceptions inside your head, and all we have to do is shift those perceptions. So all those excuses, we can just like slash through them. I look at excuses now as dares.
Yeah.
Dare me to prove them wrong, because excuses are just the result of negative programming in your brain. So I take that excuse. Oh, I'm like, so sorry that you're not sleeping well. Tell me about your water intake. Tell me about your nighttime. What do you do right before bed? Do you fall asleep with the TV on? Are you reading? Are you super active? Do you have a lot of blue light flashing at you? Are you getting in bed at the right time to give your body how much rest your body needs? Most adults are no on that. Most adults who would give that answer are, at least. So then I just back up and I'm like, don't worry about the morning routine. You know what? Let's just call this person Joe. You know what, Joe? You're not ready for a morning routine. You need an evening routine.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, I'm just so busy. Okay. All right. So what do you do at lunch? And then I just back up through the whole day until I can get right back up to the next morning. And we find those minutes to build in, 15 before bed, to create that environment for positive rest in your bedroom. And then all of a sudden, once you've done that for a week or two and you're like, wow, wait, I'm sleeping, but okay, now we're ready for the morning routine. So bring me your excuses, please. We'll just dash through them.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm great at the same type of thing. I can pick it up in person and help people develop their, it's just interesting. And I've heard all the excuses too.
Yeah, that's what we do. Someone in my life a couple weeks ago, we've been going through, as a family, my family's been going through some interesting challenges, and my friends know what I do. They know what I do, but they don't get it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Some of them get it, but some of them don't get it. The ones who have the negative money mindset still, but I'm working on them. I was like, I will stealth coach you. But somebody said, when this issue that my family had really came to a head and she learned about it, she said, see, Jane, we all have problems. And I thought, yeah, but I don't look at them as problems. I look at them as interesting situations, and how can I grow? That's the big difference. Are you looking at your problems as problems, things that hold you back, or are you looking at them as situations that, yes, you have to figure out a way how to energetically deal with them? And that means thought, what thought are you going to give to them? What actions are you going to take toward them? You have to deal with it. I don't really like using the phrase deal with it, because that's, again, I have to deal with this, but you have to come up with your way to grow through it.
Absolutely.
Dealing with. And it was just really interesting. I said, you know what I do for a living, right? Like, I know that everybody has problems. It's kind of like why I exist. And she said, well, I mean, yeah, I just mean, you just don't ever really seem bothered by anything. And I said, well, it's because we go at our problems in different ways. Like, I don't go at it from let me wallow around in this problem and complain to everybody about it and talk to everybody about it. I go with a solutions focused mindset. So you may not perceive my problems as problems because I don't.
Right. Makes a difference.
The world of different hemispheres.
Yeah, it's a whole different energy. I'm the same way. I approach challenges or problems. I honestly don't see them as problems.
Right.
I see them as, a blip, a bump in the road, something that I have to fix or do something about. I have to take some sort of action. Yeah. But I don't see it as a problem. And so here's a really interesting thing, how I used to think, and I think some people still are, just let me know if you have thought this way, or if you're still thinking this way, is that I used to think that if I didn't show so let's say a challenge comes up in your life And if I didn't show some kind of outward anguish or something about this challenge, then I really don't care about it. I really used to feel that way. Like I had to like cry.
It was a fear of external judgment.
It was fear of external judgment for sure. Like, and I felt like I wanted people to know that I cared. So about this certain, whatever it is, maybe it's somebody that passed away or something. And, you know, and I, you know, I didn't even really know that well. It's just an interesting take on things. And I discovered that for myself anyway, I didn't feel like I almost deserved to feel bad about it unless I outwardly showed that I was feeling bad about it. Whereas now, when I come up with there's a challenge, you know, I mean, if I feel like crying, I cry, because that's a cleansing, I believe, and that's our bodies need to get that energy out. But most of the time, I don't have the outward emotion about things. I'm very calm, cool, and collected. It enables me to think clearer. It enables me to make better decisions. It enables me to really pick and choose what I want to do next for the next step, instead of getting all wound up about something that doesn't really need to be wound up about. Does that make any sense to you?
It totally makes sense, and it makes me think of something that I'll say to people who are wound up in an issue like that, and I just kind of throw it out there to confuse them just for a second, because sometimes we need to be knocked off our train of thought in order to get over that train of thought.
Yes.
Not shove it down, not get over it the way that most people think that, but get through it.
Right.
And so if somebody's stuck in a pattern like that, sometimes I'll say, you know, how many times, honestly, now answer me honestly here, how many times have you laid awake at night worrying about gravity? And what happens is exactly what you just did. There's either a little giggle, or there's like a huh, or something like that, and it just throws you off for a second. You know, think about it. And if you guys are watching, like, answer, you know, replay, whatever. How many times have you laid awake at night? Now, people lay awake worrying about money. They lay awake worrying about business. They lay awake worrying about their relationships. Worry. There's the common thing there.
Yeah.
But how many times have you lost sleep over worrying about gravity?
Yeah.
Any? None? Okay. So we usually worry about things, and this is just another point for your notes. If you're taking notes, if you're using this as a growth opportunity, investing in yourself, we usually worry about things that we cannot control, which are outside our boundaries to control, which means that you are either violating your own boundaries or you're attempting to violate someone else's, right?
Right.
Or things that are so far removed from us that we, by time or distance, that we have an inability to interact, control, manipulate, whatever. We're usually worrying about, you know, people worry about, oh gosh, you know, how in the world is this going to happen if blah, 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 or how in the world can this not happen if da, 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 you know, how can I keep this from? Most of those questions we can ask why, you know, why is that your question? Why is that your question? And get down to what you really can control. You know, oh, I hope this doesn't happen. Well, do you have any control over this? Okay, I hope that there were severe storms in my area recently.
Yeah, there were.
And tornadoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the time I was thinking, okay, we just need to prepare for the night that's going to be riddled with storms, get the sleep that we can get, and make sure that we're in the safest place that we possibly can be. There's certain places in a home or a structure that are safer than others if you're going through a storm. I'm sure a lot of you guys have never had to deal with tornadoes. They're just kind of a way of life for me because I've grown up in an area with tornadoes. So I don't get scared by them anymore. I just know how to prepare for them. There's a big difference. People, oh, what if? Okay, I mean, what if? It happens. What if, I don't know, I just turn it into an opportunity for an all family sleepover in my room.
Right.
Next to the safest place in the house, which is kind of a closet off of my room, so you just can't worry. And you have to ask yourself, why am I thinking about this? Well, why am I thinking about the bill that I need to pay? Why am I worrying about the bill that I need to pay?
Right.
And people ask me, how, when you were a single mom and your mom was dying of cancer and you had all these bills and how did you invest in your mentor? Well, I got resourceful. I borrowed money. I sold a ton of stuff on eBay that I wasn't really using and I didn't really need. I had a couple of yard sales to sell the other stuff that I didn't want to go through selling on eBay. I just got resourceful. I found it. We all have wealth. Some of it's just sitting around us on our shelves, and so there's no use worrying about money. If you have a brain, you can earn. Anybody.
Yep.
If you have a functioning brain and you can blink and listen to this and interact and type in the chat and whatever, then you can earn. So I think that's a really important question for us to ask ourselves. How many times have we laid awake worrying about gravity? If the answer is 0, then is there anything I can do about this thing that's causing me to worry? And sometimes we might say, yes. Okay, well, but is it really our job to think about this?
Yeah.
Usually that's a no.
Yeah. Worrying takes up a lot of energy.
For nothing.
For nothing. We can't change it by worrying. Worrying about it is not changing it. Aligned action towards something, if you can take that action, may change some circumstances, but worrying about it. And I think about that if it starts, something starts popping in my head, because we're all human. Sometimes that just pops up for me. But what's different is that I can, when it comes up, I recognize it, and then I can change my mindset about it. And I literally can. I can say, is this something that I need to be worrying about right now? No. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and I'll put another link in, or check the video description for a masterclass that I teach quite regularly about overcoming fear and negativity in your environment. It's free. You can go to guildmasterclass.com, and it's something that I present in cooperation with I Am Creator and Master Sri Krishna. So I'll put that in the chat as well, and you guys can join us there. And I teach 5 keys to overcoming this, and it's really a lot of what we're talking about today. Don't just go through something, grow through it. And how can I grow through it? By changing my mindset so that I can find those treasures. I can find that treasure chest. And then unpack it. And it might be covered in muck, but all right, sometimes you have to get your hands dirty to really get to the good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else for us today, Kendra?
I don't think so. I think that was great conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm just sticking that in the chat. There we go. So that everybody has it. And I think that's it for us. So if you've enjoyed this, give us a thumbs up. And if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. And otherwise, we will see you next week for another Master Your Mind.
See you next week, everybody.